Hi, I'm Rachel McLeod. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, mental health therapist, and emotional wellness coach. And I specialize in helping people do the brain work for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, and all the complications that those things bring along with us, like staying in toxic relationships longer than we want to, self hatred. Shrinking back, withdrawing in relationships, self sabotage, all of those things are the brain has a process of resolving. And that's the work I help people do. So it's pretty fun over here. Help people do a little bit of brain work and they can finally do things that they've never been able to do before, succeed farther, have deeper relationships, more intimacy, those sorts of things just by a little bit of brain push ups, get the brain doing those push-ups in there. But really, the brain has a process for all these things. It can get stuck and not functioning, and then we'll see all these wonky kind of things happen, and we get it functioning, and all of a sudden there's transformation and things are moving along well. We've got growth, maturation, mastery, and all the great things our brain is designed to do. So, I have a little bit of a cough today. So please excuse me. Also, I coach a boys volleyball team, a bunch of 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds. And so we had a tournament this weekend. So my voice sounds like I've been using it. So that's what's going on with me. We're going to just make it through and talk about this anyway because I'm really excited to have this conversation. It's really powerful. This is also work so let me tell you what the title is before I run around here. Um, the title of today's talk is The Impact of Survival Mode in Relationship Conflict. And so this is really an important topic. There's a brain process for making sure brains are resolving conflict well. Conflict in relationships serves as really powerful opportunities for growth, connection, deeper intimacy. It's actually building pathways where there weren't pathways. That's why we have conflict, because we don't have a way of creating a win-win solution. We don't have a way through that creates health and wellness, and both sides are advocating for, hey, this isn't working for me. And so this is important. This is vital to relationships. It's natural to relationships. And it is important that we have wonderful conflict resolution strategies. And it's very difficult to do that when we're in survival mode. And so when we're in survival mode, we're going to see our brain use entirely different strategies. And we're not going to get a choice on those strategies that the brain chooses to use, because that part of our brain, our survival center and a survival mode, is not a choice center. It is we're going to survive. The brain decides this for us. It shifts into this strategy, this way of being. It's a different function than when we're in a whole brain state, when we're using our resources and problem solving and collaboration and cooperation and creativity. That's a different brain state. And when we're in survival mode, we're not operating in that state. So we're not going to see those things happen. Um, when we're in survival mode, we're going to use strategies of fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn, or collapse. And you're not going to get a choice. And so this is a really important distinction, because those are not great for collaboration and problem solving and conflict resolution. It's not likely that you're going to get conflict resolution, healthy conflict resolution, out of survival mode. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because you can accidentally, like, in there, it's like you're taking dice, you're rolling them, and you're like, what are we coming out with? And your brain's going to decide for you, and it's going to be a survival strategy. It might I don't know what the numbers are here. There might be a percentage of 1% chance of it actually also being a thriving strategy. But really, your brain is designed to survive. And then once we come to a place that's safe, now we're going to figure out what we're going to do with where we're at and how we're going to thrive and all that stuff. But they don't run at the same time. And so, in conflict, it is triggering to our survival mode because our relationships are so important to us. They're part of how we survived. Conflict if can feel in our brain like a threat to our survival, and our brain responds like that. That's we know consciously with the other parts of our brain that these are opportunities for growth. It's not necessarily a threat to our survival. This is actually opportunities to have our life work better for us, have our relationships be more fulfilling, right? But the survival part of our brain is not a thinking center. It's not a smart center. It's just, are we going to live or are we going to die? And it's all based on reading the pain neurons. If there's pain here, we're going to die. If this is positive or no pain, we should probably be okay. Um, And so, but we really want our whole brain deciding some of these things and reorganizing and updating our programming for survival moding in relationship and conflict. And so a lot of times what we want to do is get the brain to reprocess all of this stuff. Like, you think you're going to die, brain? Okay, let's make sure that gets the other parts of the brain so they can look at it too and review if we're going to die or not, just because our partner looked at us sideways. And then it's going to read all of that stuff, make new ways of being for us, and then reprogram us. And then our partner can make that look at us again, and it doesn't send us off into survival mode. It actually, the brain our system is reprogrammed to view that as not a threat. And so we want that to happen more and more so that we can see and view conflict as not a threat. We can change our relationship with conflict and see it as an opportunity instead of a threat. You can logically know this information, but if your brain can't go through the process of it understanding that, your mind and your subconscious mind understanding that threat is not a conflict is not a threat, and your body understanding that conflict is not a threat, when they go through their process of understanding this, all parts of you are on the same page and you can move forward. You have inner alignment and you don't have to work against your body. You're not divided. Your thinking center understands this, and your body and your subconscious mind are going the other direction, and you're pulling, right? And now you're divided. Your thinking center is like, ooh, look at this opportunity, and your body's like, ah, we're gonna die. And your subconscious mind is like, no, use our strategies to make this conflict go away or to do what we do. And so, when we're divided like that, right? Divided, we fall. Unified, we will thrive. And so we want to support the mind and the body to go through their process for changing their relationship with conflict, using conflict as growth, having a relationship with conflict that is welcoming and supportive and high strategies. And so we're going to look here at the impact of survival mode on relationships, conflict in relationships, and and then uh, and then I'll talk a little bit more. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Okay. But let's talk about this. Um, I want to say that because conflict resolution is so vital and important to relationships, we really want to do it well. When we go into survival mode, we're not. Um, we're not doing that well. We're not getting successful experiences with conflict resolution. The more we're going into survival mode and we're using these other strategies, we're repatterning and wiring our brain to use fight, flight, freeze, faint, or fawn. And that's really frustrating because we're wiring ourselves to go in the opposite direction. Many of us who were raised in families where conflict wasn't safe, or wasn't embraced as an opportunity, or we just, in early childhood, there were no healthy skills for conflict resolution. We already have been wired away from using conflict in a healthy way. We've already been wired to view conflict as a threat. And so we want to rewire, we want to unwire that and wire for healthy conflict resolution. And so the more we've stayed in survival mode, the more our brain has been blocked in using conflict as healing opportunities, which means we've had less practice, which means there's some delays or barriers or impairments to our conflict resolution. So if you're noticing that in conflict you are fight, flight, freeze, faint, or fawning, please understand this is not your fault. This is brain function, and it's how you're wired. And it's the simple thing is just to do the work to wire to wire in your healthy skills, strategies, and relationships with conflict. And so we this is the work, the brain work I help people do. We use their conflict moments to get their brain to shift how it views them, what the programming for that, this to build skills and to build in those skills so that you can do that healthy conflict resolution um, in unconscious competence. I have a video called The Four Levels of Competence. It's a really fabulous one. And you can see how brains do their work. And we want to help brains go all the way to unconscious competence. So I'm going to let you find that video. I'll probably post it in the notes here so you can find it yourself and watch it. But okay. Um, so the same process the brain uses for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress and shifting out of survival mode is the same process the brain uses for growth, maturation, and mastery. So most of us are like, I just want to stop freaking out. I just want to stop freezing in conflict. That's really a great goal. And when that goal is accomplished, several other goals are accomplished too. That's why this work is so phenomenal. And we want to lead with brain work here because there's so many shifts and transformations that can be made if your brain is just working in the correct healing, transformational, mastery, growth process. Okay, instead of survival mode. So we just want to switch from survival mode to that processing, regulating, healing, transformational mode that the brain has, and that's natural to it. So, um, but okay, so let's look at some of the strategies here. If you are in conflict and your system experiences fight mode, you are using conflict, you're going straight into fight mode. You might notice yourself becoming irritable, reactive, argumentative, loud, angry outbursts, even violent, aggressive, those sorts of things. Even passive aggressive also falls in here. When we make statements like, I can't do anything right. This is a type of fight mode that we're using. We're throwing spears. That's actually, we're throwing a pity spear. Pity is, I love pity. It's a fabulous emotion. But if it doesn't get processed, it turns into a very separating energy and a disconnection, but which is surprisingly bonding for us. That's a whole nother topic. But we will do this in fight mode to create a situation where we can win. And unfortunately, fight mode, the survival system, remember, doesn't care about anybody else but keeping us alive. That's its only job. It's not wired for community. It's not wired for balance. It's like, I need to keep this body alive. And so it's really when we go there, we're set up to create wins for us, and that means losses for other people. If we're winning, they lose. Our survival system doesn't care. We won, right? Oh, we live to fight another day. It's happy. And then you get regulated and the rest of your brain turns on and it's like, what did we do? What are you doing in there? Because they don't have priority. The rest of the brain doesn't have priority. Your values, your morals, they're not a priority center. The survival mode is. It's how our design is. And so we can feel a lot of shame as a result of being fighters in survival mode, and it not being in alignment with our values and our morals, because actually those parts of our brain didn't actually get to participate in the conflict and the conflict resolution, and they would have been wonderful, and they are who we want here. We don't want our survival system in conflict in our relationships. It's not appropriate, but they don't know that. But we need to walk the brain through its process of learning that let's let the whole brain work on this, not just survival system, right? And this is why we can feel like we don't have any control and why we keep messing things up and like we're losing, and we're ruining our relationships because this part of the brain is going to ruin your relationships, period. Let's say you also, let me see, flight mode. So if you sense a conflict or you sense a conflict that's about to happen, because your survival system will pick this up because it doesn't like you in there, because we're gonna die, it thinks. And then also it's like, how can we never get in there? It always will work to that. That's how our symptoms become bigger. And that's how our symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress and our impairments can start to take over more and more of our life, because your survival system is like, one, we're not doing that. And two, we're going to make sure we never even get close to that. And three, if that doesn't work, we're going to take over a bigger spot and we're going to never go there. And that's how we can lose function in major areas of our life. We don't want it to get there. But and if it gets there, we can get it. We can work your brain back to, hey, this is not dangerous like you thought it was. So let's rewire all of this. We have a lot of power with these things. Just because we've lost areas of our life or in our ability to conflict well, to resolution, um, it doesn't mean we can't rewire. And the brain is wonderful at this. You know, the whole neuroplasticity thing. Yeah, it's great. So it's not a thing to worry about. We just want to get the information, and so we know what steps to take. If you're going into flight mode, you're running away. Maybe you're somebody who, in my family, there was a lot of running to the bedroom. Um, Maybe you're somebody who jumps in the car and drives off. Maybe you're someone who runs away in your mind and dissociates and you can't be found. Um, but the strategy with flight mode is that you're out of there. If you sense a conflict about to start or you're in conflict, you're out. So, and there's many creative strategies for this. Some of them, um, I want to talk about those, but those are not going to come to my mind right now. But you can look around at how you're doing conflict and see if you're doing one of these strategies and how you're doing one of these strategies. We all have our own style that we will put on fight mode and flight mode and freeze and faint and fawn and collapse. So, um, but let's see. Also, one of the ways we'll do this is, oh no, that's not this one. Okay, let me talk about freeze mode. If you see conflict and you freeze, this happens a lot. Gosh, this was one I would do a lot. I wonder, anyway. So I would have a feel that would come over me, and then freeze for me would turn into fawning. A fabulous, horrible combination. I mean, you survive, but right, we'll get to fawning. But when you are freezing, a lot of times you have the words you want to say, you can't get them out. You have, maybe it's like, you know, that your partner and your romantic partner does really well if you'll put a hand on them and help them calm down too. But you can't move your hand to put it on there, right, on your partner's shoulder. You're just frozen. This is kind of where our body does the deer thing, deer in the headlights, and kind of like where our brain is pretending we're going into invisible mode, like you can't see me if I stand really still, even though that's not how it works. But it's not a choice. It's not something you can come out of. If you are in conflict with somebody who's doing this, they are in a survival state. They do not have access to their whole functioning brain. Please disengage, right? Please give them a little bit of space there. But if that's you as well, this is also something. You're not weak. Actually, you're pretty strong. Your brain has just put you in a state, and it has done it very strongly, and you don't get to move or talk. This is also where selective mutism will show up, where in that situation you can't, you're mute. Um, it's an anxiety symptom. Um, so I want you to recognize these, because in conflict, we will notice our partners or the people we're in conflict with doing some of these strategies, and we can misinterpret them. We can think that they're fighting us when actually their brain thinks it's going to die. Right? It's not personal to us. It is they have lost control of their nervous system. They're in survival mode. Um, they're freezing, they're fainting, they're fawning. This doesn't mean that they don't want to resolve conflict with you. They're actually working from a part of the brain that doesn't give them choices or options. Um, we also notice faint mode, where people will actually get in conflict, they will get sleepy, tired, and fall asleep. There are also times when people will absolutely flat out faint in conflict. I've never had one of those clients. Um, if you're, that's not my style either, but if you're one of them, this is alarming and it's angering and it's frustrating and it's a survival state. But a lot of times we'll see people go to sleep, get really tired and go to sleep within minutes of the conflict. Their system is like, we're in danger, faint, go to sleep, lose consciousness, now go. And so you'll watch their brain put them to sleep. So that's not a choice they're making. They're not sleepy, tired, or even lazy. Their brain thinks this is their best strategy for surviving this conflict, right? And while we might feel like that's wackadoodle, that this is brain function. This is primal. This is like we've been using these strategies to live for a long time, and so it's not. It's just the brain is using an accurate strategy at the wrong time. If this survival strategy is real and you really need to survive, your brain is doing a great job. Rock and roll, but that's not what's happening here. And so we want to work with your brain to learn, hey, let's not run that function here. Let's let the whole brain work on this. Let's be creative and collaborative and grounded and regulated while we do this conflict, not pass out. Thank you. And we can get your brain to make that shift. Fawning in conflict. This is a state where you are going to appease the person. Their safety and comfort, their perception of safety and comfort is the most important thing. Your brain thinks that to survive this, we're going to give them everything they want. We're going to make sure they're happy. We're going to make sure they stay happy. This is where we will self-abandon. We will abandon ourselves. Who cares what we want or need right now? The only thing that's important is, are they happy? Are they feeling secure? This is where we will make ourselves look less than. We might joke about how bad we are or how less we are. We will put ourselves in an inferior position in this state, and we will put them in a superior position in the state. If this is happening with you and you're on the superior end, please be alarmed. You are not in conflict resolution with them. You are interacting with them while they're in a survival state, and their brain thinks they're going to die. And so they are negotiating as if their life depends on it. And it is not to create a win-win solution. And so they will create a win for you and a loss for them, which when they come back into their regulated whole brain state, they're going to be resentful, angry, bitter. And if this is your partner, this sucks, right? Because you just got what you wanted. And now all of a sudden, the next morning, they hate you, they hate themselves, they are mad, and they feel powerless, and they feel like you just bully them. And really, they got triggered. They were in a survival state. They gave you all the things. Do not engage in collaborations and cooperations when someone's in a survival state, because that is not actually cooperation, collaboration, and problem solving. That is a survival state, and they will come out of it eventually and be their whole brain state and not be and you will have more conflict, and you will have lost ground in your relationships. More importantly, you will have lost intimacy, and your partner will likely spiral in bouts of shame and distress. All of that stuff is resolvable, but it's annoying pattern to be in with yourself, and it's difficult to be in to get the benefits of collaborative and healthy conflict resolution. You need conflict resolution to be successful in order to have deep intimacy, safety, security in your relationships, and thriving. And if somebody cannot get into the brain state to help create that, we are delaying converting these opportunities into health and wellness. And if that is impaired, and it's not only delayed, but if there's an entire backlog, you're probably very dissatisfied in your relationship. You're probably very separated. You have high feelings of being alone, having to do everything yourself, being dissatisfied, settling for less in your relationship, and the negative emotions are growing, growing, growing. And so it's so important that we get these conflict resolutions, these conflicts, shifting and using them as opportunities for connection and growth, wellness, and win-win connections. That is really where the magic happens. That's what we need. That's what we want. And so when we're in survival states, that's not occurring. We're not even on the same channel as healthy conflict resolution. We actually need to get on that channel. And when I'm working with couples, this is the work I help them do. I am not a marriage therapist. I don't know what you should say. Like they have words and sentences and like I don't know what all they do over there. When I'm working with couples, I am watching their brain states and making sure that they can be in a whole brain state. And if they go into survival mode, what was that, and let's resolve that. And so a lot of times, what's shift I don't even know if I should go into that this live, but if they're when we're shifting out of survival mode, we want to shift back in. Sometimes we can do that very quickly. I have clients, couples using the interventions I teach. Um, my favorite interventions for this work with the survival system directly. That part of the brain doesn't care about reason and logic. It's listening to our body, and so we can use the body to send messages of safety and messages to influence the survival system. Hey, you don't need to do that. Let's go into processing. And when we get the right strategy on board, the brain will listen. That part of the brain will allow the other. It will shift quickly, and it will allow the other parts of the brain to turn on and work and function where it might have taken weeks, months, years, days, hours to come out of a survival state. We can influence it to shift it within seconds, in a couple minutes. And then all of a sudden people are like the light bulbs are coming on, they're having insights, they're making connections, they're regulating, they're feeling more calm in their body, they're thinking with clarity, they're seeing things from multiple perspectives. Vital to conflict resolution is seeing things from multiple perspectives. There's a brain state for that. You have to be in that brain function in order to be able to see things from multiple perspectives. If you're in survival mode, you do not have access to that part of the brain. You cannot see things from other perspectives. Um, so I know when people are shifting back into a whole brain state because they're making statements that are inclusive of other perspectives. And so now I know, okay, we're running on the right pace. And so I highlight a couple of those things because people we're retraining to be in a regulated state, and that means some self-awareness around when I'm not, right? And self awareness around when I am. And so then people can do the work of retraining themselves and taking themselves repeatedly and repatterning and rewiring in a regulated state. Right. And then helping themselves and supporting, learning when they need to support their brain to go into a regulated, problem solving, collaborative state, and out of a survival state. In relationships where there's lots of like complex PTSD or childhood trauma, things like that, there's quite a bit of retraining that needs to take place. Um, and so it's important people have the skills for this themselves. It's great when I do it with them and I give them homework so that when they're at home, do in their relationships, they're practicing this and they're doing that repatterning. So let me see. So with with survival mode and conflict resolution, what I really want you to take away is that this is really where we're missing out on opportunities to convert conflict into intimacy, growth, mastery, wellness, and new healthy ways of being and connecting. And so we really want to do the work of shifting out of survival mode. Um, and I want you to practice this. I want you to repattern your brain. I want you to rewire your brain to this if this is something you're noticing. A lot of times, so anyway, there are three there are three interventions I teach. Four interventions I like that work with that part of the brain. I like to have multiple strategies because different people are different and they need different things. And so I teach three of these for free on my program, Interventions for Inner World Transformation. Um, I invite you to go to my website or go to the site, get into that program, learn these, and try these interventions out for yourself. See what you think, see if they help you shift from survival mode to uh, regulated mode, processing mode, healing mode. If they can help your brain make that shift. If it does, it'll happen very quickly. I teach you in there. I have a video showing you what you're looking for and the signs that this intervention works for you, and then to keep applying that. But a lot of times people already know. I just wanted to make sure people know and feel confident using and what they're using the interventions and evaluating whether that intervention is working for them or not. I don't want them guessing. I don't want you guessing. I want you to know what works, because there is a massive difference between survival mode and a regulated processing mode. And I want you to be able to see it, feel it, and connect with it. So I teach that there. If this is an ongoing problem, if this is a problem you've had for a long time, or you're somebody who in childhood never, you were patterned to fight, flight, freeze, or faint in conflict in your relationships, then there's probably, you probably need more advanced strategies than just using an intervention. And so I invite you to get that. I have a process that I walk people through that helps resolve these things. We do layer after work very strategically. I teach a roadmap that teaches a very high level and advanced nervous system regulation and processing strategies and skill set. But most importantly, it helps you resolve these issues at the root so that you can be phenomenal at conflict resolution. And so that's available on my website as well. That program is called Inner World Transformation. It's the program I use to walk all my therapy clients through resolving disorders of anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, complex PTSD, body dysmorphia, all the things. I just do brain function, right? And so I walk them through the brain work for resolving these issues. That's available. I wanted that to be available to you as well, because I know that there's not a lot of therapists that do that work, or to equip people with the strategies and train them to do the work for themselves. And there's so much work you can do for yourself, so that you're not limited to just working on your mental health when you're with a therapist, that you can actually help yourself, and you can support your brain to hey, let's shift out of survival mode here and into a processing state. The more you can do that when your brain needs the support, the better. It's wonderful to work in a session with your therapist, but that's not your actual real life. Your brain needs to work and function properly and be skillful in your life, and that's where it really needs the support. So I pack all my clients with this stuff so that we can resolve their disorder so much faster. We can repattern and rewire healthy brain function and healthy strategies and upgrades quickly. And so we're on the same team, and they do so much more work outside of our sessions than they do in our sessions, and it really helps them really support themselves, trust themselves, rely upon themselves. It's really part of their healing to be able to know that they can rely on themselves, and they can show up for themselves in a way that will consistently get them healing results and conflict resolution and so I want to invite you to take a walk with me in those programs, and really resolve this survival mode challenge that you got going on, if you've got one going on. If you're watching this and you have a loved one, or you have other loved ones that have challenges with conflict resolution because they keep going into a survival state, please share this video with them. Share the links, and I appreciate you. I'll see you guys later. Bye.